Hello, welcome everybody. Yesterday was the 3.19 Lake of Kalandra announcement with patch notes, and this is one of the biggest shakeups in PoE history. The new league and everything looks really cool. I think the mechanics here in Lake of Kalandra itself are going to be nice. They actually didn't spoil that much. It just looks like a fun way to have an encounter, kind of like Synthesis 2.0. Mirror your items, make really strong jewelry. So they didn't spoil too much here with the league itself. I think there's probably some hidden gems, but they did drop some really, really big changes that will fundamentally shake up the way that, especially in softcore trade, that we play the game and craft our items and interact with a lot of different things. And what we're gonna try to do today is just try to blast through this, give you guys some broad strokes here. It took 4 hours on stream to go over the announcement and then the patch notes. There's so much there. I'll link the VOD below if you want to watch the whole thing on Twitch. But I just want to give my high-level thoughts here, not waste your time, just give you a little bit of a digest. The big things that really jump out at me that I'm going to be thinking about and really considering. And I am super, super excited for it. And yeah, let's start going over it. So starting off, we do have the 3.19 Lake of Kalandra League itself. It does seem like they've been kind of muddling the idea between expansion and league. They did say that they wanted to rename it to expansion, and that way they can be a little bit more inclusive with doing like the end game changes, which they have done this patch. But I do have to say, I was expecting something really big when they were using the word expansion. That's just like my mental framework for the way that they've used that word in the past. Current impressions with Lake of Kalandra is that it is basically Synthesis 2.0, where there is a crafting mechanic that is kind of random, where you can mirror your jewelry and elevate or de-elevate some of your stats, so you can get like really, really good or really, really bad jewelry. And then you craft these encounters that just have boss fights and other league mechanics all within it, like breaches and harbingers and stuff like that. Next up are the memories and ultimatum. So the memories themselves seem pretty cool. I think it's a clever way to encourage you to interact with some more maps that are on the Atlas. Path of Exile players, we like to hyper optimize things and see how we can sustain a single map that would just run over and over again. And it seems like memories are a clever way to fit some additional lore into the game and encourage you to run a different map than you might be running the entire 3 months of the league. So what a memory is an item that drops that then you talk to a certain NPC in the game like Nico or Einhar, and then you can open a map specifically from them that you can craft up. And you're basically going through a journey that explains some of the lore behind their experiences as well. As you go through the ordeal, the difficulty will increase, and they're very unique encounters by having an entire map that is a breach or a map that is like multiple beachhead bosses at the same time. And then, yeah, hopefully that the loot is really good and it's not just another thing that we throw on the back shelf. Our good friend, the Trial Master, is back. They didn't bring back Ultimatum itself. They just brought back the Trial Master encounter, which is fine. So you just do the Trial Master boss fight and then you cross your fingers and you hope you get a pair of Hate Forge gloves, and then you get super rich, or you have a super OP Vol Lightning Strike build. Oh, and then the unique item rebalance. They did change 100 unique items. The most notable thing is they removed all faded uniques from the game. They took the unique faded attributes from a lot of them and they put them into the base item. For example, the Doomfletch Prism that normally gains 100% of each element, that gets added to the base one. Same thing with Asnas Chant that has the trigger, like the main reason you use Asnas Chant, trigger a spell, they put that on Asnas Mark. However, for many of these, they also did remove some of the base stats that are kind of nice, like some of the deck stacking on Heries. Some of the other ones are looking really, really good, like Clay Shaper is looking pretty insane for some Fizz minions. It really feels like a mixed bag. I do feel like the overall sentiment here was to make leveling uniques more viable, more interesting. The other really big thing that they did is they dramatically lowered the drop rate for uniques to make it more exciting and unique to see one. So we'll see just how rare they are. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going absolutely wild in PoE right now, theory crafting, all sorts of different things. There's a couple things that kind of jumped out at me when I was reading them last night, but there was just so much that it was like a information overload to the point where like this would be like a whole 45-minute long video to go over each one. So yeah, this is going to be a very big shakeup. Some are better, some are worse. Some now have uses that never had uses. This may be the #1 thing in this patch that actually increases build diversity because there's so much that people can play around with. All right, new skill and support gems. First up, we have Alchemist Mark here, which is a mark that when you hit an enemy and you ignite or you poison them, you will create burning and or caustic ground. So you can actually do both if you want to do like an ignite poison build. Don't do that. And it will also give you 1 flash charge every 3 seconds, which is effectively none. I don't know, that's such a low number that it feels like a typo. I would not be surprised if that gets rebalanced a little bit. That is just an atrociously small number. Caustic ground will deal 79% of chaos damage of the strongest poison, and burning ground will deal 26% of fire damage. So the burning, I think for the burning ground, it's a potential replacement for Flame Surge if you want to just get a little bit bonus damage if you're Ignite based. So the nice thing about this is you can use Mark on Hit to get that additional curse on. So you'll usually have like 1 curse on hit ring, like Ally Weakness, Flammability, or Despair, or Temp Chains you could get on the gloves. And then you can use Mark on Hit to just get some passive flash charge generation. And this is just a almost free way if you're attacking to just get that additional curse on there. I do think generally, if I'm building like really hard into poison, Despair and Temp Chains, as I'm ramping a lot of poisons especially, will just be better than using Alchemist Mark, especially if we're in the world where you're fighting a boss and the boss is moving around a lot. The caustic ground is just going to be in a single spot. But this could be a nice way to get a little bit of additional prolif if you're like a non-Pathfinder poison-based character. I do think this is like an okay curse, but it doesn't have me super excited about it. Overcharge support, as you'll see here, they give us 2 lightning skills and 1 lightning support. They are reworking lightning a little bit. They know that shock is just like kind of ignored a little bit. It's a bonus to get a little damage here and there, but people usually don't build around it too much. So they're trying to give us even more shock effect. It's now possible to get, I believe, over 100 shock effect if you like fully invest into it. They're giving you a ton of ways to get really, really big shocks. And so yeah, as you can see with overcharge support, what this does is it makes you deal less damage, but you will shock as if you're dealing 690% more damage. So this is a way that you can kind of guarantee to hit your max shock as like an engine to get more damage, as like a utility support. Lightning Conduit. Lightning strikes all shocked enemies around a targeted location, then removes shock from those enemies. Shocks cannot expire in range while casting the spell, cannot be supported by Spell Cascade or Unleash. So yeah, what Lightning Conduit does is it does not shock. You will cast something that will shock all the enemies around you, then you will cast Lightning Conduit and it'll basically like pull the shocks off the enemies and deal damage based on that. I'm kind of thinking of it like Hex Blast. So you want your shock is going to be like your curse, and then Lightning Conduit will be like Hex Blast itself that will remove the shock slash, like removing the curse from Hex Blast and have like a nice big AoE explosion. These are pretty good numbers here. You'll see they did have a very specific line. This spell's cast time is added to its cooldown if triggered. So they don't want you to just like trivially put this into, cast on damage taken, cast while channeling, cast on crit. They want you to press multiple buttons, and that's why they're trying to push it this direction. And then the other one is Galvanic Field here. Yeah, so what this is you cast a buff on yourself, and then when you shock enemies, it'll make a dome that will do periodic lightning strikes in the area. So yeah, pretty neat. There was nothing here that looked super exciting, super sexy, but lightning really is kind of like the weakest element in the game right now, where if you do build around it, you're usually just kind of like converting it to cold. So I think it's cool that they are adding some more support to lightning, and I'm excited to see the builds that come out of this. I'm definitely gonna be playing around with it. All right, Archnemesis is getting reworked. Rares will be much, much rarer. It sounded like the number of rares that you see just naturally occurring will be similar, but the rares that get spit out by other content will be dramatically reduced. In the example footage, they show how many rares that, beyond Abyss and all that type of stuff can really spit out, and they found that problematic. What they're doing is the rares that you do see, the 4 mod rares are coming back. They are removing the keystone that adds an additional Archnemesis modifier. So that is gone. In fact, Stream of Consciousness is going over there in kind of like a weird place. But the big thing that they're doing is they are trying to make the rewards match the difficulty of the encounter and drop like lots of uniques. Maybe that will be, just make that more rewarding and more interesting to do. So we will see how this shakes out. They did say they want to make it harder. They're going to make like Solaris Touch, Katava Touch, stuff like that a little bit more common when you do find those rares. But if the rewards are worth it, maybe it'll be worth it. I do anticipate people running into some trouble there. Beyond is getting reworked. If you've been playing the game for a long time, you know that Beyond monsters are literally just the bandits from Act 2 that are painted red. It is very simple. It's not like super interesting. It's just more juice on your map. And so what they're doing is they're replacing it with Scourge. Now, the benefit here is they are also bringing back Tainted Currency, which is great. So now, especially 6 links, if they are the wrong colors, or you want to get the quality up on them, or you want to have a good chance, or if you have like a corrupted 5 link and you want to 6 link it and it's a really good base, you can play around with that. So that's pretty cool. And then the really, really big one is Harvest, fully reworking Harvest. So now it drops a tradable currency that then will be the fuel basically for doing the crafts. So you no longer collect the crafts. You just go into harvest, kill the monsters, you get the juice basically, and then you can go back to your base and you can pick from the entire list of available crafts. If you have the juice to do it, you can do it. You know, since it's tradable now as well, you don't have to worry about, you know, someone clicking on the wrong thing or taking your item or anything like that. All you have to do is trade the juice and do the craft yourself. So if you mess it up and you click the wrong thing, that's your own fault. Yeah, this is a sweeping, gigantic change. We will see what actually comes of this. The actual economic ramifications are really hard to say right now. Also, some of the crafts have been removed or changed, so we don't know the power level of those yet. They did not tell us in the patch notes. We'll see how that shakes out. Something that you may expect to be very easy or common to do may actually require a lot more juice than you anticipate. And so the rebalance of that may be, you know, it might be nice or it might be a little uncomfortable. We don't know yet. For overall balance changes, they did spend some time talking about minions and all that. That's been talked to death and everyone talking about the manifesto and everything. I heard secondhand that Gazzy was overall very happy with what he saw here. So, you know, I'll just go with his opinion on that. I don't have like a super nuanced opinion on minions, but I do think it's cool that they are pushing their power in the same place that all other builds have to do, where they actually have the good gear to have a good build. So I think that's pretty cool. If minion players figure it out and it ends up that they're strong and can be happy, then that's great. And then the super, super big one. This one has the most lasting economic ramifications of possibly anything that they've ever done in the history of me playing Path of Exile. They are effectively switching the role of Exalts and Divine Orbs. If you don't know, currently metacrafts, prefixes can't be changed, suffixes can't be changed, stuff like that, costs Exalted Orbs. That's like the main reason that they cost so much. That's the main driving factor why they are worth so much, because high-end crafters need a lot of them to create their big items. Divine Orbs right now will go between 10 and 20 chaos. They're very easy to get. It's very easy to farm 6 links, sell them for divines, and their real only use was to re-roll on items. And an Exalted Orb's inherent value is to slam on items, but no one does that. People only use their Exalts for the metacrafts. And GGG didn't like that, or they just wanted to shake everything up. They didn't like the fact that no one was ever using Exalts and divines were farmed like candy, you know, just kind of tossed around 10 to 15 chaos each. People rolled up their items perfectly. So they're switching it. They're making it so divines are now the cost for metacrafts. Exalts will now do nothing, as far as I can tell, except for to slam on items. They are also removing the 6-link selling to a vendor for a divine recipe. So no more easy divines. The consequences of this are huge. Lots of things like, oh, farming harbingers. What's the main thing that you farm in harbingers? Exalted shards. If exalts are worth nothing, why would you do harbingers? Things like Forbidden Shaco. That item is trash, you know, outside of using like an average of 300 to 500 divines just to get a good roll on it. How are you ever going to do that? Timeless jewels, right? If you think about a divine now being worth an exalt, would you spam exalts on a timeless jewel just to make it a better roll? Or are we just going to be looking for specific seeds now? You know, the seeds got cracked last patch, and now maybe this is partially GGG's answer to that. You know, maybe we did this to ourselves. We can't even fully figure out the entire ramifications of this. The economy is going to be in shambles, to say the least. If you like the chaos, you may really enjoy this. If you like a stable and reliable economy, don't play the first 2 to 3 weeks of the next league, because it's going to be crazy. We're already seeing the prices of everything get in standard being flip-flopped. Things are being sold for thousands and thousands of divines. It's absolute pandemonium. All I can say is we got to be patient, feel it out. Who knows what this is going to look like on the other side. All right, and then what I am the most excited about is the Trickster rework. Basically what they did is they reworked him to be oriented entirely around speed and evasion and like really defensive oriented. Chris put it in a really cool way where he said it's basically the evasion or dexterity equivalent of a champion, but more oriented around speed. So I'm not going to go into extreme detail here. I would definitely check out Captain Lance's overview. He goes over every single node. The one thing that I will say that I think is super cool is we have Polymath right here, which gives you 3% more damage for each different type of mastery that you have allocated. I double checked in PoB for the Trickster build that I was playing around with, just like the little prototype. It had 7 different mastery types, and so that's just a 21% more damage multiplier, which is actually competitive with his old Prolonged Pain damage node. So he's actually like not really losing damage. He's actually like kind of gaining damage for more generic types of builds. The one thing that is missing is Harness the Void, if you saw the previous video. I love that node. I think it's really neat. They did add that to the Forbidden Jewels. So yeah, you can still get that if you want to. We'll see how rare that is, if it's you know, how desired it is. It's a very cool node to build into if you want to lean into it. The one that I am super, super excited about one step ahead right here in the lower left corner. So your action speed is at least 108% of base value, while you still can get affected by stun, chill, freeze, etc., or Elder's slowy thing. Delirium grabby hands, this is what I'm most excited about. You will be affected by it, so if you're taking more damage or anything, if you are chilled or something like that, then that will still apply. However, your action speed cannot get slowed down, so you're just walking around full speed, faster than full speed, all the time. 108% action speed is a non-elevated tailwind, so you just have that going all the time. Not to mention nearby enemy monsters' action speed will never go above 92%, so they are always slightly slowed down, and they can't speed up beyond that, so you don't have to worry about like turbo fast monsters in the game. I am like 50-50 on League starting a Trickster myself. He's just going to be really, really tanky, very mobile, and just very comfortable to play. So I'm really, really excited about this. I'm going to start playing around with build ideas on stream later today. I have no idea which direction I'm going to go, but I am incredibly excited for the return of one of my favorite ascendancies in the game. So yeah, this will be one of the biggest shakeups in Path of Exile history, at least in Trade League, especially the Exalt and Divine change and the Harvest change to make it tradable. Those two things, along with like the Beyond rework, that is just so much to change the fundamental way that we even understand the economy in the game, that I'm sure the big financial gurus are putting together all sorts of crazy machinations and really trying to suss all that stuff out with spreadsheets. I do have some plans to like focus on more divine-oriented farming instead of Exalt-oriented farming. But besides that, I'm going to let that kind of shake out a little bit, and we'll see where things lie. So yeah, again, that's it for me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you especially to patrons, and thank you for all the support so far, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.